Good morning from the heart of New York City. This is Food School Smarter, Stronger, Leaner podcast dedicated to one thing: to learn and apply to eat better daily. I'm your host, Shurina from Create Yourself That Today, your personal nutritionist, your personal health and wellness coach, your personal fat loss guru, and just someone with a lot of passion for healthy food, healthy eating, diets, nutrition, supplements, anything and everything in between. Everything that we put on our plate, in our mouth, in order to feel the best, look the best, and perform the best on all levels, mentally and physically. That's the ideal picture, of course, because a lot of us, without sufficient knowledge, a lot of us use nutrition not for good, but for our own negative, effects, our own harm, right? A lot of times it would happen because we don't know better or we don't understand something better, and a lot of times it would happen because these days food industry created so many products, food-like products that are not beneficial for us, that it is really hard to sift through all the garbage to healthy food that actually makes us feel good and look good and perform amazing. So today's, guys, the episode is dedicated to answering questions that I got on Quora, and also I talked with a client of mine yesterday about that. Very interesting question, and I think everyone should understand the answer to this question in order to improve your eating habits and just care more, I guess, about nutrition. And let's just dig right into it. So the question was, where did the notion that carbs are bad for you originate? Where did it occur? Around the same time that the fat is bad for you trend happened? So basically the question is all about, where did it all come from? Carbs are bad or fats are bad. Sometimes people think that I hate carbs, that I think carbs are evil and nobody should be eating them, and everyone should be just, no low carb on keto diet or carnivore diet, like I experiment with right now, because I talk so much about them. People think that I don't like carbs and I think carbs are bad. But I do not think that carbs are bad, and I certainly do not think that fats are bad or ever were bad. Carbs are not bad, fats are not bad. Processed food, junk food, food with hormones, antibiotics, pesticides, foods improperly stored or improperly prepared, that is bad for us, not carbs or fats or proteins. Sometimes people start make protein bad too, even though we cannot survive without it. So we cannot without fats either. Anyway, it just our human biochemistry evolved that way, that when we eat carbs, especially carbs in excess, when we consume too much, that happens to most of people in our society of abundance and our society of processed carbohydrates, like a lot of processed sugar added to everything, a lot of processed flour and grains added to everything. So when carbohydrates ingested in excess, that happens a lot these days, our body is always in the mode of fat storage, because whenever we consume a lot of carbohydrates, our glucose goes up, our blood sugar goes up, and insulin is released to bring that blood sugar down. But also, one of the ways that insulin works bringing blood sugar down is that insulin locks that excess energy into our cells, into our fat storing cells. So basically, we start eating a lot of carbohydrates, and a lot of insulin is released, and it tells our cells to store that fat. And when our cells, and because we have almost unlimited capacity to store fat, that's what our body does with the carbohydrates that we eat, because there is a limited amount of carbohydrates we can store in as a glycogen in our muscles and in our liver. It's only about 1600 calories total. And if you don't exercise, if you don't use that storage, that storage never really is empty, and all the carbohydrates you eat most of them gonna go to fats, and gonna go into fats that accumulates around your internal organs, especially with fructose, that is and high fructose, of course, corn syrup that is in many products these days. And that fructose, those carbohydrates metabolized by liver, that starts to that take part in a lot of processes, and triglycerides are created, and your blood lipids go out of balance, and you might get non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. Anyway, when we ingest a lot of carbohydrates, a lot of things that we don't want happen in our body and in our health. It just happens that way, that carbohydrates again cause insulin surge, and that cause our body to store a lot of fat. That's why, for example, carbohydrates considered more obesenogenic, meaning that they promote fat storage more so than fats or protein, because fats or protein do not lead to those glucose spikes or insulin spikes that carbohydrates lead to. So this is just a little bit of, I guess, biochemistry lesson. Might be boring, but what I want you to understand is carbohydrates are not bad. They do not make you fat by themselves. In excess, they do. And also, they tell your body, well, not the carbohydrates, but the increased insulin levels, increased blood sugar levels, to store fat much better than proteins can or fats can. That is almost impossible for, especially fats, to increase our blood sugar significantly or to promote fat storage. Anyway, so carbohydrates are not bad. It just in excess and in bigger amounts, they promote fat storing mode in our body. And that's why, for example, to stay leaner, you do not necessarily want a lot of carbohydrates in your diet. And another thing, guys, carbohydrates promote cravings and promote more hunger, because when carbohydrates are eaten, insulin is released to bring the blood sugar down, because that is vital for our survival, to have balanced blood sugar. But the body cannot release always the exact amount of insulin we need. It always releases more, just in case, just to be on the safe side, because your body doesn't know how much carbohydrates, how much blood sugar we're gonna get. So more insulin is released and your blood sugar goes down, and then what happens is your blood sugar usually go lower than it's supposed to be ideally. So your blood sugar goes down. That signals to your body, to your brain, that we need some more fuel, because we need to bring our blood sugar back to balance. And that's why we crave more food and more carbohydrates, because carbohydrates is easy and fast energy. So the more carbs you eat, the more you have cravings for them, and the more you store fat, because you don't need excess carbohydrates, especially if you don't exercise and all your glycogen fuel reserves are full. So carbohydrates are more obesenogenic. They are not bad, especially, carbohydrates like fiber that are essential, well, not essential, but they proven to be very beneficial to our gut health. Carbohydrates like fiber, in your vegetables, of course, are not bad. They're good for us. Also, resistant starch is another carbohydrate that is amazing for our gut health. But even then, a lot of plants can cause problems with digestion for people, can irritate our gut, and can create compounds or anti-nutrients that can cause inflammatory conditions, autoimmune conditions. So nutrition is a little bit more complicated than carbs are bad and fats are bad, guys. And fats, Fats were never bad. They are not bad. Processed industrialized fats, improperly stored and oxidized fats, trans fats, those are bad fats that you want to avoid. Things like canola oil, like sunflower or safflower or soybean oil. Fats occurring naturally in foods and nuts and seeds, in meats, in fish, in whole eggs. Those fats are amazing. But only if the foods that they come from are of good quality, meaning the animals were not fed pesticides or antibiotics and hormones and were healthy. The fats were stored properly so they are not oxidized and don't go rancid. So other than that, if you store your fats well, if you eat them naturally occurring from foods, fats are amazing. They are essential for our health. Our cells can communicate between each other because we have fats in our fat. Because we had fat in our cells membranes, and fats, that's what our hormones are made of. Fats are essential for our health. And why it started that fats were demonized, it's all because of one guy, Ancel Keys, who did this study back in 20th century. I forgot what year was that. But anyway, he was hired by the government. He was paid quite a lot of money to figure out why people started having heart disease and diabetes, but mostly heart disease. And so he did the study, observational study, when he analyzed these countries around the world. And his hypothesis, his idea was that the more fat people ate, the more saturated fat, especially people ate, the more heart disease they had. So he analyzed the countries, and the countries that he analyzed were actually, he analyzed 22 or something like that countries, but he took the data only from the countries that supported his idea, only 7 countries out of 22, and that's why the study is called 7 countries study. And then he made this report to the government that fat, especially saturated fat, cause heart disease and premature death and other health hazards. And after that, all these low fat craze started, all this crazy fat is bad for you theories began, but it was never true, and it never was supported by any good studies or any good data. Even now, nutritional guidelines, for example, for eggs or for cholesterol, more and more studies confirm that there is no relation between cholesterol in your diet and cholesterol in your arteries and heart disease. So eggs are good for you, and no one who reads the recent studies will tell you that eggs or cholesterol have anything to do with heart disease. So what I'm trying again to say here is fats were also never bad, and it's just one guy who decided to skew the results of the studies just to support his idea, and then he made this report to the government, and he had some authority, and the government then released those guidelines that made this low-fat thing happen, even though low-fat foods never existed when human beings evolved as species and survived for so long without any heart disease or other degenerative diseases, right? And we can see how low-fat, high-carb, grain-based nutrition affects our society, where most of people are obese or have diabetes or pre-diabetic and have all kinds of health hazards. We see the results now. So low fat, it's just a crazy idea that happened to get support from the government and the guy who had some authority, some weight in nutritional world back then. So fats are not bad, guys. Carbs are not bad, and I'm not against either. But why I recommend low carbohydrate diet, why I recommend some kind of keto or modified keto diet, is because it works the best. It seems to work the best with our physiology, and it definitely works the best if you want to get the leanest, if you want to burn the most fat. It works with our biochemistry, and that's why people on a low carbohydrate diet, and especially on keto diet, look so much leaner than people on higher carb diet. And people lose more weight, people have less cravings, people have less hunger, people have more stable energy, mental and physical. People start burning their own fats more efficiently and effectively, and keto and low carb are very anti-inflammatory. That is, when they implement it properly, because carbs, fats, they're not only about carbs and fats, they're also about diets. To recap, carbs, again, guys, not bad. Fats are not bad. They all serve a certain purpose. And you just want to understand a little bit of biochemistry, how they work in our body, and why you want to include some carbs or you don't want to include carbs in your diet, how much of it you should have. And first and foremost, guys, you want to make sure that you're eating good quality whole foods. A lot of animal and plant, good quality, organic, pasture-raised, wild, all that stuff matters, foods. And carbs are not bad, fats are not bad. Eat real food of good quality and adjust your carbohydrate percentage, carbohydrate quantity according to your goals. And just always notice how any single food makes you feel. And if something doesn't make you feel good, if something robs you from energy, if something makes you feel like shit and low on energy and fatigue, then that food is not good for you, no matter who says what. So learn from yourself, change your diet according to the results you see, to results you feel. And that's probably the best advice I can give you today, guys. So thank you for listening. If you have more questions about carbohydrates, about fats, about nutrition, about how to change your meal plans so you reach your body composition goals, so you reach your fat loss or weight loss goals, if you have any questions about healthy food, healthy nutrition, always feel free to shoot me email to Angela@createyourself.today. I'm available for coaching, and I can create a meal plan for you and just answer all your questions. So shoot me email to Angela@createyourself.today. And till next time, guys, eat better daily.